Hello, everybody, and welcome to this presentation of remote assistance done through augmented reality. My name is Massimo Rigamonti, and I work in business development for Trillium. Along with Ivano Rovellini, I'll be the speaker of this week's webinar provided by Trillium. Our goal today is to share our experience with remote assistance with you. Let's go to the index of today's webinar. We will start off with the introduction of Trillium Flow Technologies. And then we will move to the core of this presentation with the preface and a list of reasons why we believe remote assistance is interesting in our business. Then Ivano will take over the presentation, introducing himself and the tools and how it actually works, through some also definition and a few examples. At the end of the presentation, we will touch other aspects like terms and conditions, and we will leave a space greater than usual on question and answers. So let's move to the introduction of our company. Here at Trillium, we produce and sell highly engineered valves, pumps, and turbines. Trillium Flow Technology is located across North America, Europe, and Asia, and you can see on the slide the 17 different brands that belong to our product portfolio. We serve our customers in a wide variety of sectors, industries, from oil and gas to chemical and petrochemical, power generation, water and wastewater. On the next slide, we introduce our pump division, which is part of Trillium Flow Technologies, where we have 4 different brands of pumps: Rotojet, Flowway, Gabioneta, and Begeman. This is an example of an application of the pumps that we produce in the oil and gas sector. And as you can see, our products are applicable to basically all the sector, from upstream to midstream to also the downstream. This is, though, just an example because, as I said earlier, we serve customers in all the sectors, not only the oil and gas. Today, we present this webinar from our Italian facility, which is near Milan. Here, we produce API 610 centrifugal pumps with the brands Gabioneta and Begeman. At the bottom of this slide, you can see a brief history of this company that has 120 plus years of experience, and that in 2016 moved into a brand new facility where we have one of the most sophisticated test rooms with 8 megawatt of power. Now we move into the core of this presentation of the remote assistance. And we start off with a preface. In March 2020, so exactly 1 year ago, we have received a request for a commissioning on site. This request would have been normal in a different period, but as you may remember, at that time, Italy was probably the most hit country from the virus. So moving to site to do this activity was simply out of the question. And we had to provide remote assistance. That was the only option. We were not unprepared though, because we were already studying this field as a new tool to provide to our customer, and we understood at that moment that this was the beginning of a new project. And in reality, this is something we have worked on a lot, and this is something that we are going to invest again in the future. Now let's go to a list of reasons why we think remote assistance is of interest now and also in the future. Well, there are travel restrictions. This is the first reason, obvious, but also the entry restrictions to site, both onshore and offshore. It's more and more difficult to get the gate passes, in other words. With remote assistance, we can cut the reaction time, and also, which is even more important, we can get the right info in the first place, because we can understand the issue and organize tools and spares and organize a better intervention at site or through a remote assistance. We can also avoid a local support, which is a situation that we consider a lose-lose-lose situation. It's a lose situation for the OEM because it cannot support its customer. It is a lose situation for the customer because they cannot take advantage of the knowledge of the manufacturer. And it's a lose situation also for the local service provider, because it is forced to provide a solution under pressure and without the right information. Moreover, with remote assistance, we can reduce the cost, we can decrease the downtime of our products, and at the end, also the accessibility of our technical documents is improved. So, as you can see here, apart from the first point, which is the travel restrictions, all the others will still be valid post-COVID, and this is why we are investing in remote assistance. At this point, I leave the presentation to Ivano so he can introduce himself and also introduce what is remote assistance and share the information on how it works. Ivano.
Yes, thank you, Massimo, and thanks everyone again for joining this webinar today. Before to move forward with the presentation, let me just introduce myself. Ivano Rovellini. I'm working on rotating machinery since I have graduated, so this is back in 2005, and I have joined Trillium Flow Technologies in 2019 to support customers and our field service engineer in the installation, maintenance and troubleshooting of our centrifugal pumps, which are mainly installed in the petrochemical industry. So just coming back to the webinar of today and so on the topic of the remote assistance, let's go now more into technical aspects, starting from some definition. What is the remote assistance in the field of industrial machinery? So the concept behind the remote assistance is to use a remote connection which temporarily enable a product expert located not at site but in the headquarters or working from home to visually guide and collaborate with the customer and field technician to service, maintain and troubleshoot our machinery installed on site. The virtual collaboration requires both two different things. An hardware and a software. The hardware consists of a device with the network connectivity, and a software must be installed on this device to allow the users at the two ends of this connection to interact. The purpose of the software is to use the connectivity of the hardware and its multimedia feature to allow the real world and the computer-based feature to coexist in the virtual collaboration environment. Hardware can simply consist in a tablet or a smartphone for the most basic type of remote assistance, while more sophisticated devices like virtual reality headset are required for the more sophisticated type of remote assistance. And this is necessary, we will see later on, to allow a certain type of interaction of the user with the content. So let's go now to see how remote assistance is practically done. Here at Trillium, we give different name to remote assistance depending on the subject which is physically located at site, where machines are installed and where some kind of support from the headquarters is required. So at one end of the connection, which we call the back office, there is always a product expert located at our quarter, or anyway, smart working from home during the pandemic. And on the other end, we can have three different situations. We can have direct contact with the EPC or the end user, and in that case, we call it direct assistance, because the subject which is directly operating the machine is communicating with us, with Trillium, with the OEM, to get assistance required at site. Then the second case is to have a local partner in the site, which is a skilled person of one of our service providers or local partners, which being located in proximity of the site is visiting the EPC or the end user, and through whom the remote assistance is given to the site personnel. We call it indirect assistance because this is given to the customer through this local partner or this skilled person from our service. And then the third type of remote assistance that we are using here in Trillium is the internal remote assistance. This is normally given to Trillium field service engineer or site personnel in case some high competence or the high skill of a product specialist, an R&D engineer or a qualified technician is required to solve some complex issues at site, and this mainly happen in the troubleshooting of our machines. These three types of assistance are not only different on the side end of the connection, but for example, there are other things that are influenced by the type of remote assistance. One example is the confidentiality level of the information which can be shared during the remote assistance, and also on the technical level of the discussion, which is obviously adapted to the side end which we have at site. In addition to this, there are other definitions that we need to discuss when talking about remote assistance. And this type are more general in the industry and depend on the user experience and interaction which is given through the virtual collaboration during the remote assistance. These definitions are mainly three, and that does not represent really three different concepts, but three different levels of complexity of the interaction of the real world with the computer-based information. Obviously, also the feature of the devices, hardware and software, and also the work, which is the preparatory work, which is behind each type of assistance is different. So let's start from the augmented reality. This is the most basic type of remote assistance, and it is basically an interactive experience in which the user can access to static computer-based information which are simply overlaid to the real world where the site end of the connection is. This is also the most widely used type of remote assistance, and one simple example is the aided maintenance of machinery, where, for example, the maintenance point and the main instruction are shown in real time on the image of the machine, which is captured through the camera of the hardware device which is being used at that site. A real-life example of augmented reality is, for example, the navigation app which we all have on our smartphone, which are capable to recognize objects through the camera and display static tags showing point of interest and some other relevant information. The mixed reality instead is on a higher level of integration between the real world and the computer-based content, in the sense that it allows the user to visualize and interact with the virtual information. Typical examples in the industrial sector is on the assembly of complex machinery, where workers can access a 3D model of the machine instead of looking at the drawings, so being able to rotate this, to zoom, to section, and to capture all details, as well as instruction and procedure which they need to assemble the machine. A real-life application of the mixed reality is the virtual furnishing, where dedicated app help viewers to appreciate the sense of the space and can experience the living of a virtually furnished space before it is really done. Obviously, the mixed reality remote assistance require more sophisticated kind of devices like smart glasses, which allow this interaction to be possible. The third type of assistance is the virtual reality, which instead is an entirely virtual experience where the user is totally immersed in a virtual environment, so in the computer-based contact, and is losing any contact with the real world. The most common use of virtual reality in the industrial field is for training purpose, where the user can virtually experience in advance a situation which he will really live in the future, so to be trained and prepared to solve that in the most efficient way. And a real-life example of virtual reality is gaming through the virtual reality headset, where the user is totally immersed on the gaming environment. For the virtual reality, a virtual reality headset, so a complex hardware and a very good network connectivity is necessary to exchange all the data that are needed. When talking about these three type of augmented, mixed, and virtual reality in the industrial sector, something has to be said against safety. The augmented reality maintaining a very strict contact of the user with the real world is not putting too much concern on the safety, because the user can still see the environment in which he is living, and so he still has a perception of all the safety aspects there. Instead, on the mixed and virtual reality, safety is really a concern, because the user is somehow losing contact with the real world, and so that's one of the reasons why these two types of reality are less used into the industrial environment. The technology which is used for remote assistance then is not really the tool, so it's not really the important thing. The important thing is to share and to provide the correct information in the right time and with the right person to reach the goal to solve the issues that have been encountered at the site. So that my first time in presentation is now over. Massimo will now introduce us in our direct experience at Trillium with the remote assistance. Massimo, please, to you.
Thank you, Ivano. Well, so we've seen what is the remote assistance and the different type of reality that we can use. Well, as I said, since March of 2020, we are heavily working on this topic, and this is a summary of what we have done in the last 12 months. We have worked with numerous projects. Basically, all the customers that had ongoing projects, they could not certainly stop their projects, so we provided to them the remote assistance as a way to proceed with the works on site. And this was done in three main areas: the commissioning, the troubleshooting, and the training. Commissioning means a long, multi-weekly kind of on-site activity, whereas the troubleshooting is the way to assist our customer when there is an issue on site. And they require different kind of organizations and different kind of tools also to be used because of the different reaction time needed. Training is, at least for the theory of the training, it's straightforward. In other words, it's pretty simple to be used, the remote assistance to do theoretical training. Our experience, we worked in different time zones that go from +3 UTC to -6 UTC. And that means that our personnel, especially the field service engineers that were heavily involved into this kind of assistance, had to work during the night or very early morning. Our resources involved in this project were field service engineers, for sure, and also the engineering team at the headquarters, but also our local partner network and our training team. In the last year, we have totalized 45 working days of assistance, and this does not count what we define as internal remote assistance, so the assistance that we provide to our own personnel. And we have recorded 150 multimedia resources, videos and pictures. Something has to be said here because these are resources that are confidential, so we cannot disclose them. So we cannot use them also in the explanation of a few examples. So you will not see during the, when Ivano will go through the examples, any of these images or videos that we have taken. So it's time now to share with you three different examples of remote assistance taken from our experience. So Ivano, you can go ahead with that. Thank you.
Yes, so let's start from example number one, which is a kind of internal assistance that was given from the headquarters to one of our field service engineer, which was assisting a customer in the commissioning of our products. Here, the challenge was that the performances of the pump at site were claimed to be 15 lower than the performance curve that we had recorded here during the FET in our factory. All the checks were already made by the field service engineer, and the result of this was satisfactory, so nothing could be observed, and the reason for this low performance found. So the attention moved from the pump itself to the interaction of the pump with the process side and the layout of the piping at site. But here the knowledge of a more skilled person with a wider background, so not only a knowledge on our product itself, but a more wide knowledge, engineering knowledge was required. And then the field service engineer started a remote assistance session to communicate directly with the product specialist into the factory, into the headquarters. Once the situation was explained and the attention moved then to the process side, then the back office, so the product specialist, was allowed to really go through the site using the augmented reality headset that the field service engineer has with him at site. And so, starting walking through the site and analyzing the piping layout, an unvented section of the piping was found upstream the pump, so at the suction side. And the idea came is that some gas or vapor was trapped into this section, and so not allowing the pump to perform as it was expected. This information was transferred to the field service engineer, and modification was done to properly vent this section of the piping, and then the performance test of the pump at site was repeated, and the result was good in the sense that the problem was solved, and the performances of the pump were now aligned to its performance curve that was measured here in the factory during FAT. Here the benefit that we have given to customer was to provide a real-time solution and not giving any time impact on the commissioning activities at site. And moreover, that was also a sort of training of the job to our field service engineer, which now learn how to face these kind of issues in the commissioning, and so will be more prepared when facing similar things at site in the future. So let's now move to the second type of assistance that we have provided with example number 2, which was instead a direct assistance which was given to one of our customers. And the issue there was about rejected startup of a not serviced pump. In that case, the changeover of the main unit with the standby pump was not possible because the pump was tripping on high vibration immediately at startup. So before reaching or when reaching its rated speed, the vibration really exceed the set point, and so the pump could not be operated. The changeover was needed at site because some scheduled maintenance was needed on the main pump, and so this was preventing site operation to move forward as per schedule. Here the customer started directly the remote assistance section, talking to one of our product specialists in the factory, and the request was to basically analyze and go through the DCS data in real time to try to understand which was the reason behind the trip of vibration. A tablet was used there at the site end to communicate with our headquarters and to allow the product specialist to visualize the DCS data in real time. Going through the different trends, attention was given to the warm-up temperature trend before startup, so before the standby unit was started. And here an optimal situation, so some improvement was seen by the customer in the sense that the pump temperature before startup were not in the optimal range when compared to the temperature of the process fluid. Analyzing the P&I of the installation and the site arrangement, then it was calculated that a different orifice on the warm-up line could improve the situation, allowing a better warm-up of the pump. Calculation was done on real time by the product specialist, and the modification was immediately done at site by the site personnel, allowing the operation at site to move forward. First analysis was again on the new warm-up trends after the modification to the warm-up line, and what can be observed is that now the casing, the temperature of the casing of the pump were now really closer to the process temperature, and also the difference between the different part of the casing were really decreased. The pump was then started again, and the vibration were really compliant with the levels which are acceptable for site operation, and so the customer was able to conclude the changeover in a really short time and maintain his schedule for the maintenance. That was basically the main benefit for the customer, but the other benefit that has to be mentioned is some knowledge transfer from our product specialists, so from the OEM when talking in general, to machine operators, which then has learned something more about operation of the machines, and now better know how to face similar situation in the future. Let's go now to example number 3, which instead is on the training, and was about the necessity of one of our customer to train his personnel at site on pump operation during the pandemic, and this necessity was requested not to delay the startup of the site process. Here our training on the pump basically consists of 2 different sessions. First one is on the theory and operation of the pump, which was not really a concern because could be done remotely without any significant modification or impact on the training material and methodology. But the challenge there was to prepare some material for the second part of the training, which is a practical session which normally include in our factory assembly and disassembly of some pumps in the factory, as well as practical experience on accessory which are assembled on that. So the challenge was to make possible this second part, and the solution which we have thought was to prepare some multimedia content in our factory to be shown to the participant of the training, and provide some first person, some in-eye view of the activities that has to be carried out on our machines. For the purpose, in particular, some videos were prepared in the factory using our augmented reality headset. And now we will have a look at one very simple example of these videos. The video might be chipping to you depending of the network connection which is available at the 2 ends of this webinar. But in the registration that will be published of this webinar, you will really be able to experience the video and the connectivity of the material that was prepared. Let's move now to the video, which in reality we have prepared is really simple and is on the connection of proximity probe at on our machinery, and is simply showing what is the procedure for checking and fixing the connection of the proximity probe itself to his extension cable, which is into the casing, in the bearing mounted casing of the connection itself. So that is just a really simple example of what can be done with the augmented reality headset for training purpose, so that the user can really experience in first view, so showing from their eyes the procedure and activities which has to be done when doing maintenance or troubleshooting on our equipment. Okay, so now that we have run into these three examples which have covered all the type of assistance, so direct, indirect, and internal, as well as some more example on the training, the troubleshooting at site, then I will leave again the presentation to Massimo, which will drive us through other aspects of the remote assistance. Massimo, please.
Yeah, okay. We have seen these examples of the remote assistance. There are though other aspects that need to be considered when we provide this type of service to our customers. And one of them is the terms and conditions, or the legal aspects. We are showing in this slide 5 areas that we had to review internally when we provided this service to our customers. The first point is the skills and the competencies of the personnel of our client. Basically, when we provide the assistance, we don't know who will be actually doing the job. So there is the need that the personnel that is provided by the customer, there is the need for this personnel to be sufficiently trained. And we have added this into our terms and conditions. As well, the accuracy of the information from site, since remote assistance can only be based on the information that we receive, they need to be accurate and they need to be relevant information. Otherwise, the assistance will not be efficient. The third point is very important, and is the adequate internet line that has to be present at site. Without it, and without a suitable means of communication, simply the assistance will be very difficult. And we had experienced one example where the efficiency was, let's say, lower than expected because the internet line was not that good. The fourth point is the warranty on represented issues. This is also straightforward, because basically the warranty that can be provided are on the basis of the represented issues. So in other words, are based on the data and information that are received. And the last point is also very clear. With the remote assistance, there is a confidentiality topic that has to be discussed and agreed on both ways, because we basically have our eyes into the site of our customer, and also our customer have our critical information that we share with them, like drawings, materials, tolerances, and so on. So when providing a remote assistance project, not only the technology, not only the organization has to be considered, but also other aspects like, as we said, terms and conditions. And with this slide, we have decided to stop here our presentation, because we think we have covered all the areas of this project. And now we leave time if, in case there are any questions. Ivano, can you see the questions, because I can't?
No, at the moment we don't have any open query, let's say. Oh, okay, now yes, we have one question from Kuwait, which is about the maximum temperature of the augmented reality headset can withstand, and if that was ever used anywhere in the Middle East. So the reply to the first question is difficult, because then the maximum temperature which an headset can withstand really depend on its hardware. So it's not really on us, but depend on the on which type of hardware is purchased from the market. Let's say that in our experience, these headsets are anyway prepared for in the industrial environment in which we are working. So temperature up to let's say 45 degrees can be withstood without any problem by each of them, but anyway also higher temperature are possible, maybe with some limitation of time or something like that, but it is for sure possible. And question to second answer to second question is yes. We had we have done a remote assistance in the Middle East, and this was done several times. For example, in the UAE and also in Kuwait, which I have to tell was the country in which the majority of the 45 days that were mentioned of assistance that we have done in the last year were done. So yes, it was done in the Middle East, and we have a really nice experience both with the hardware, with the software, network connectivity. We have to say that that was really, really great.
Yes, let me add, Ivano, that the headset is actually composed by smart glasses that are mounted into a normal helmet. So the helmet is usually the commercial helmet that every one of us uses when within the site.
Okay, and then there is another question always about the necessary setup for the remote assistance, which is what is the necessary setup, hardware, software required to get remote services? Okay, this is something that could be agreed in case of remote assistance, in the way that we have selected on the market one of these solutions, which means a software, an hardware, and a license, basically, which is required for the communication. So from our side, we are prepared to share the license wherever is needed over the world. And at your end, so at site end, what is really needed for an augmented reality assistance, which is basically the most effective in our industrial world. What is needed at the site is just really a mobile or a tablet and with the network connectivity. Then we have also to tell that we have explored also the possibility to use a software and an hardware which is already available at site. This we have evaluated it to be possible because basically then it just means for us to connect to a website and have access to the platform which is already available at site. But I have to say that in reality this was explored, this was just tested and found to be working, but then we didn't then make this project with using the platform that's available at the customer end. So that is in principle possible, but some test is needed before to start using a platform on which we don't have real experience. Okay, then there is another question, who should be contacted in case of remote assistance requirement? Yes, the Trillium service department can be contacted directly for this kind of assistance, so through our website or directly to me, to Massimo, or whatever contact you have inside our organization is okay, and the request for remote assistance will come directly to us, to the service department. Okay, there is here another question on if we have done any remote assistance through the virtual reality, and here the answer is no. Our experience today is with augmented reality only, and the reason are basically two. First one, which is internal to our organization, is that the virtual reality really needs a huge preparatory work to create the virtual environment and the virtual content which has to be shared, which today is not yet ready or fully ready inside our organization. And this is first reason. Second reason is that virtual reality is not really in our experience, and also in the experience of the service providers, so the provider of software and hardware that we have contacted, is not really the right tool today for remote assistance. One instead is, for example, for training purpose. And the third reason for that is what we have already anticipated during the webinar. So on the safety aspect, let's just think to when you are working on an offshore platform or anywhere in any industrial site, then if you have a virtual reality headset, then you are totally detached from the reality. You are not also seeing where you are walking. And so this is a great concern that has to be addressed before doing remote assistance with the virtual reality. And these are the main reason for us not to have experience with virtual reality yet. Okay, then there is another question on the arrangement which is required for remote support. So let's say that at the back office end, there is normally no problem, because then it's just needed a laptop or a computer anyway, or also a tablet, any device with a network connectivity is basically okay. What is requested at site is the hardware, which you have seen could be a tablet, a smartphone, or a headset. And here network connectivity is strictly needed. Our experience with that, so when we are using remote assistance with our local partners or with our field service engineer, then what we have done is to connect the headset, which normally has a Wi-Fi connectivity, to a portable router or modem with the network connection of a local mobile service provider, and so we don't really need a direct interaction and connection to the network connectivity of the site, of the PC, or of the end user. So our experience was that the connectivity was directly given through our service, so no connection to the network of the customer has been required. Obviously, it can be done, but there then we will run and into the discussion of the legal aspect that were anticipated by Massimo in the last slide of the presentation. Then, yes, there is an interesting question on the ATEX and explosion-proof certification of the headset. So what we have to say is that the majority of the headset are not certified for use in ATEX areas. What has to be told is that there are headsets, and mainly these are augmented reality headsets, which are instead prepared and certified for the use in explosion-proof environment. So this can be used without any restriction at site. Obviously, and as the majority of explosion-proof certified devices, these have higher cost when compared to just standard headset. But yes, these are available and are normally used in the industrial remote assistance.
Okay, Ivano, I think we can take one more.
Yes. On this one, question is about having remote support on an old plant. Then here we don't see any real difficulty in providing remote support in an old plant. As we have mentioned, what is needed is just web connectivity, which can be also done through a portable modem. So there is no reason for not being able to have remote assistance in an old plant. Because then the only connection which is required is for the augmented reality headset. Concerning the cost also, it's not really different than providing remote assistance for the commissioning or for the troubleshooting on a site which is being ultimated or started up. So the site doesn't make really the difference when providing remote support. The difference which is made is on the content which is shared and on the network connectivity, which we have seen is not an issue really.
Okay, I think Ivano, we can stop here since we have reached the hour. Just a comment on all these questions about the technology that we have used. And I think this can also be the takeaway of this presentation, that for us, technology is not the driver, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the organization, the way ourselves and our customer reach an agreement on how to provide the service. Technology can be found easily on the market, and so we didn't find any difficulties with that.
In case of direct remote assistance, so to customer, will Trillium be able to provide a list of hardware for remote assistance during pre-order stage and during kickoff meeting? Here, the question is not like black or white, in the sense that we have selected our software for the remote assistance as well as the hardware. So we have experience with that, and for sure we can also share which is the provider and the tools that we are using with our customers, so to share our experience. It has to be said that we have also explored the possibility to use any hardware or software for remote assistance that might be available at site. We have done just some tests there, and really the service has not yet been given to our customer, but the tests were successful. So we can say that both can be done. So we can be the one suggesting or recommending to our customer which is the solution, the preferred solution, and that will be the one on which we have experience, and both we can adapt our service to basically any of the hardware and the software which might be available at customer end. Okay, we have another question there today, which is about service rates. Are the remote assistance rates the same as on-site assistance? Massimo, maybe you want to tell something about that?
Yes, one of the topics that we had to study and to discuss internally was also the pricing of the remote assistance. Basically, the remote assistance has very, again, easy to understand that some of the costs are not present. The traveling, accommodation, let's say the living expenses are not there. But in any case, what we consider is the real value of this kind of assistance is basically the same, being done on site or being done through a remote device, which is the transfer of the knowledge, which is the majority of the value of the assistance that we provide. So to answer to this question is yes, we apply different rates. The rates for the remote assistance are lower. It really depends on other factors, but yes, we are not using the same rates. Moreover, today we also have to consider that in case we absolutely need an on-site assistance, there is an additional cost, which is the cost of the time of the quarantine, that it's not present with the remote assistance. So yes, we use different rates, and as we presented in an earlier slide, the reduction of the cost is a real thing.
Okay, we have another question about the site requirement for the remote assistance service we can offer to customers. Okay, here we can tell which is our experience. Basically, what is required at site is the hardware, which is available at our field service engineer or anywhere at site, or just a standard tablet would be okay. The key point there is the network connectivity, especially when at site we have our field service personnel. In that case, normally it is not common to get access to the network connectivity of the site because of confidentiality, legal, and other aspects like that. What we've done in our experience is to just connect the hardware for the remote assistance to a mobile router or a modem with a local connectivity, so that we can be completely independent on the network of the customer, and so we can be anyway able to provide the service to our customer. Obviously, this mostly applies to the assistance that we have called indirect and internal, so where we have Trillium personnel or anyway our local partner at site. But the same can apply also for direct assistance. If direct connectivity is available, then it's okay. Otherwise, just a portable device would also fit the purpose. Okay, there is another question about the ATEX certification of the device. On this, we can say that it's not really in Trillium about the certification of the device, but our experience is that on the market there are available a lot of non-ATEX devices, while also few approved one are available. So both of the technologies are there, and depending on the site, on the regulation of the site, and the access we can have, classification of the area, or maybe if we are just in a commissioning phase where the process is not yet started, and so there is no real risk of explosion and presence of explosive atmosphere, then just a standard device would work. But anyway, yes, the answer is yes. On the market, also ATEX devices are available and can be used with the same capability, so without any impact on the purpose of and the result of the remote assistance. Okay, let's move to next one. For the solution for the solution being provided, did you solve during shutdown or during the running plant? Here we have experience on both of these. So I mean, remote assistance is not really dependent or applicable just in one of these cases. So when the plant is not running or when the plant is running, it really depends on the customer need, and both of them can be done. Basically, then let me just add that the applicability of solution on a machine which is running, or if the shutdown of the machine is needed, really depends on the issue that we are facing, and really does not differ from the assistance that we can provide directly at site. I mean, if the problem is need the machine to be stopped, to be solved, then it needs to be solved in any case, both it is remote assistance or not. Okay, let's go to another question. Let's take this one on the legal aspect. Maybe Massimo is better that you answer this. Regarding the slide of the legal aspect, to which extent the responsibility for site intervention is shifted from the manufacturer and provider to the client?
Okay, if I understand well the question, basically we are saying that we take responsibility, so we give the warranty on the assistance that we provide. The only thing that we say that is covered into the terms and conditions is that the assistance is based on the information that we receive, and this is why the tools for the remote assistance also has a way to record the exchange of information, because again, we provide warranty, so we commit ourselves, but only on the basis of the information that we receive. So that's why we need to have, or we ask, or we have to make sure, let's say, that the personnel on site is competent, trained, and the information that we receive are accurate.
Okay, then there is one question about how to reach out the remote assistance service at Trillium. Here basically you can contact us, so the service department of Trillium Pumps, and we can provide you with all the information and details to start a remote assistance service, or any way to assist for any need at site for technical assistance on the product.
Okay, I think Ivan, you can take one more question because we are running.
Yes. We can take this one. Do we provide the same warranty level as in case our personnel is working at site? Massimo, you want to detail about that?
Yes, again, in the sense that basically the concept is that through the assistance, be it done on site or from a remote, but the activity is the same. So it is performed at the same, with the highest standards, let's say. So the final result of the assistance has to be exactly the same in both cases. So the warranty is the same.
Yes, if I may add, there is one interesting question that has been just raised on experience of one of the users, which is in the webinar. Which is saying that offer this kind of service from other vendor, the most typical complaint was that due to site condition, noise, and etc., the real communication was not possible. Do you have an arrangement for that? Yes, this is something that we have faced too. We know that the industry where we are working and the plants are really noisy. And this can make the communication difficult. We have faced this issue, but it was not preventing the success of the assistance, in the sense that it was anyway done. Yes, it was not easy as in an office, but then through the multimedia capacity of the set that we are using, so by sharing visual content, making notes, and so on, it was anyway possible to complete the assistance. Then we have also explored with the suppliers on this, and on the market there are available some devices with sound suppression system, so that is allowing, let me call crystal clear communication from the two ends of the connection, removing the background noise, which is typical of a site which is running.
Okay, so I think that we can close it here. Well, Ivan and myself, for sure, we thank every one of you. Hopefully it has been of interest. We've just, again, transparently shared our experience. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so, and we'll be happy to keep on replying to your questions. So thanks a lot again, and see you soon.
Thanks everyone for joining us.